Hello everybody and welcome to another Twilight Zone review. Today it is Season 5, Episode 2, Steel, written by Richard Matheson and starring Lee Marvin as Steele Kelly. And this is a perfectly acceptable, entertaining Twilight Zone episode. I enjoyed it, but I will say as a viewer, you have to kind of just go with it and not overanalyze it, as there is one plot point that I guess depending on your point of view is kind of hard to buy into, but if you just go with it, I think you'll be fine with this episode. So we start with two men, Steele and a man named Pole, who is a mechanic, and they're partners. And they're talking in a restaurant and drinking, and what they're talking about is a robot. It turns out he's an older model robot, and he has a fight coming up, and there appear to be a lot of repairs that this robot needs, being an older model. And you can tell that Steele is very optimistic about this, while Pole is not so confident that this robot is going to hold up any longer for the upcoming fight. And then we get an opening narration from Rod Serling, which is helpful, and it explains a little bit more about the setup for the fight. Serling tells us that boxing has been outlawed for humans, but that robots now are the ones that are allowed to box. So everything is making sense now. So Steele and Pole go to see the guys in charge of the fight, and it turns out they were lucky to even get this fight because these older models have a hard time even booking these fights anymore. And we also find out that Steele himself was a really good fighter, but he had to stop because boxing was outlawed for humans, which will be very important very soon. And you can tell that no one but Steele has any faith in this robot at all. So they're getting ready for the fight, and Pole is complaining again about all the things that need fixing, and he can't find the parts to do it anymore. So they test out the robot, and it's not working right, and finally something in it blows out and they can't do anything with it at all. Pole says, I can't fix him, I don't have the right materials to do it. So Steele decides, since no one knows what the robot looks like and very few people have seen what he looks like, he's going to pose as a robot and take on the fight himself. Now this is where I think the episode, the credibility of it, I'm not really sure about this. Could this guy really pose as a robot and no one would know? I mean, aren't the human's mannerisms still different no matter how hard you try, especially once he gets in the ring? Would he really be able to stay completely still for the introductions and all those type of things? I don't know. I thought it was a little hard to believe, but I just went with it. And like I said, if you did, you'll be fine in this episode. So they're going down to the ring, and they have a little bit of a touch and go situation there. But they get to the ring okay, undetected, and the crowd is really booing this robot, which his name is Battling Maxo, which I thought was an entertaining name, that Steele is trying to act like he's this robot. And I have to say the crowd is really, really tough on this guy. So we actually get to the fight after the introductions, and the fight scene's really good. It's entertaining, it's done well. And of course, Steele gets beat up and loses. I mean, this guy really gets beaten on. And when they're leaving the ring, they're booing and yelling at this guy again. I thought this was a pretty tough crowd. I mean, the guy lost and got beat up. Well, can't you just give him a break? So Steele's in really bad shape now. He can't even stand on his own. And then he gets even more bummed when he finds out they only got half of the prize money. Pole tells him that's all they would give me because, Maxo only lasted one round. But Steele stays optimistic. He says that Maxo just needs an overhaul. We'll take a bus back to save money, and we'll be back on our feet, and we'll be in good shape. We'll be okay. So it's nice that Steele has this kind of optimism. And I guess the moral of this tale, as Rod Serling kind of says in his ending narration, is that man, can rise up to any situation. And even when they're beat down, they don't give up. They just come back again. But I have to say, wouldn't a better message maybe have been in this episode that maybe man needs to realize when they need to adapt to the modern times and maybe look ahead to the future a little bit, but they chose not to go in that direction. And I guess this ending's fine. I just thought that alternative might have been more interesting. So overall, I feel that Steel is a well-paced and entertaining Twilight Zone episode. Lee Marvin is good in it. He has a strong presence, and I just wish that the message would have been thought out a little bit more and that the believability of the episode would have been just a bit better and I might have went higher. But as it is, I'm going to give Steel a 3 out of 5. I definitely think it's worth at least a one-time watch because it's entertaining enough. So a 3 out of 5 for Steel, and as always, thanks very much for watching.